You wake up, you make yourself a bowl of cereal or maybe some toast or a bowl of cottage cheese with fruit on the side. It feels light. It feels responsible. It feels like the kind of breakfast a doctor would nod at. But here's the truth almost nobody tells you. That healthy breakfast sitting in front of you right now might already be pushing you halfway to your entire sodium limit for the day. And you haven't even had lunch yet. This channel exists to help people over 65 live stronger, move better, and understand their own bodies without the confusion the food industry loves to create. Everything we share here is for education. It is never a replacement for your doctor. Before you change anything about your diet, especially if you take medication or manage a health condition, please talk to your physician first. Now let's talk about sodium, because after 65, it behaves differently inside you than it did when you were 30. Here's what changes. As we age, our kidneys slowly lose some of their ability to clear excess sodium out of the bloodstream. Research on kidney function in older adults shows that aging kidneys retain sodium more easily and struggle to release it as efficiently as younger kidneys do. That means the same plate of food that barely affected you at 40 can quietly raise your blood pressure at 70. And blood pressure is not some abstract number on a cuff at the pharmacy. When sodium builds up, your body holds onto extra water to balance it out. That extra fluid increases the pressure inside your blood vessels. Over months and years, that pressure works against your heart, your arteries, and your kidneys, even when you feel completely fine. That's the part nobody warns you about. High sodium intake doesn't announce itself. There's no alarm bell. You don't taste it building up. You just wake up one day at a checkup and your numbers have quietly crept upward, and you have no idea why, because you've been eating what you thought was healthy the entire time. So what is the actual target? According to the American Heart Association and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, adults over 50, and especially people managing blood pressure or heart health, should aim for no more than 1,500 milligrams of sodium a day. For comparison, the average American eats around 3,400 milligrams daily, more than double. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Most of that sodium isn't coming from the salt shaker on your table. It's coming from packaged and processed food. The kind sitting in your pantry labeled whole grain, heart healthy, or high protein, which brings us to breakfast. The one meal most people over 65 genuinely believe they've already gotten right. Let's start with the box sitting in half of American pantries. Cornflakes. You've probably spent years watching the sugar content on cereal boxes. That's the number everyone tells you to fear. But almost nobody looks at the sodium line right next to it. A single 1-cup serving of plain cornflakes contains around 204 milligrams of sodium. Not from anything salty tasting, just from processing. Now think about Cheerios, one of the most recommended heart-healthy cereals on the shelf, literally wearing a heart symbol on the box. 1 cup contains roughly 230 milligrams of sodium. There are cereals marketed specifically for heart health that contain over 200 milligrams per serving as well. The irony is almost too much. A box telling you it protects your heart while quietly feeding your blood pressure. And here's the detail that should really bother you. Cereal doesn't taste salty. There's no sharp bite on your tongue warning you. The sodium is buried underneath sugar and grain flavor, so your taste buds never sound the alarm. You could eat that bowl every single morning for 10 years and never once suspect it. Compare that to plain old-fashioned oats cooked with water. 0 milligrams of sodium. Naturally, no processing needed to make that true. Now let's talk about what you're putting that cereal next to, or what you're spreading on your toast, bread. Most people assume bread is just flour, yeast, water, and a little bit of salt. Homemade bread mostly is. But store-bought bread can contain 200 to 400 milligrams of sodium per single slice. That means one ordinary sandwich, just 2 slices, can already carry close to 600 milligrams before anything else touches it. No meat, no cheese, no condiments, just the bread. And if your breakfast leans toward a bagel instead of toast, brace yourself. A medium plain bagel can carry around 500 milligrams of sodium. One bagel. That's a third of your entire daily target for the day, from something with no visible seasoning on it at all. This is the pattern we need you to see clearly. The foods marketed as simple, wholesome, grandmother-style breakfast staples are frequently the ones hiding the most sodium, precisely because nobody thinks to question them. But we're not finished. There's one breakfast favorite that might be the biggest surprise of all, and it's the one most people over 65 reach for specifically because they think it's the safest, healthiest choice on the table. Before we get to that one, let's talk about the instant packets. If your mornings move fast, you might reach for instant oatmeal, the kind that comes in a paper packet you just add hot water to. Convenient, yes. Innocent, not quite. A single serving of instant oatmeal can carry anywhere from 200 to 365 milligrams of sodium, depending on the brand and flavor. Compare that again to plain oats cooked at home. 0 milligrams. The difference isn't the oats themselves. It's everything added during processing to make it shelf-stable and flavorful without any real effort on your part. And if breakfast for you looks more like a quick sandwich with deli turkey or ham, here's a number that might stop you mid-bite. A single serving of deli meat can carry up to 700 milligrams of sodium. That's nearly half your entire daily target, wrapped inside something that looks like lean, simple protein. Now here's the part that ties everything together, and it's the piece almost nobody talks about publicly. According to national dietary surveys, roughly 77% of the sodium in the average diet doesn't come from your salt shaker at all. It comes from processed and packaged food added during manufacturing, long before it ever reaches your kitchen. Only a small fraction comes from what you sprinkle on at the table. That means you could throw away your salt shaker entirely, season nothing yourself ever again, and still be consuming dangerous amounts of sodium every single day, simply because of what's already inside the boxes and packages you trust. Sit with that for a second. It reframes everything. This was never really about whether you're heavy-handed with a shaker at dinner. It's about what food companies decided to put inside convenient and healthy-sounding products long before they hit the shelf. If this is opening your eyes even a little, this is exactly the kind of thing we dig into every week on this channel, Real Research, explained honestly, without the fear-mongering and without the fluff. If you want more of this, hit subscribe so you don't miss what we cover next. And while you're here, drop a comment telling us which one of these surprised you the most, the cereal, the bread, or the deli meat. We read every comment and it helps us know what to dig into next. Now, the one we saved for last. The one people over 65 reach for specifically because they believe it's the smart, protein-rich, doctor-approved choice. Cottage cheese. For decades, cottage cheese has been handed to older adults as the gold standard breakfast. High in protein, low in sugar, gentle on the stomach. Recommended constantly for people watching their weight or trying to preserve muscle as they age. It has earned a reputation as one of the safest things you can put in a bowl. But regular cottage cheese can contain anywhere from 220 milligrams up to an astonishing 746 milligrams of sodium in a single cup. Read that again. 746 milligrams. From a food most people would never in a million years describe as salty. Think about what that means practically. If you had a bowl of regular cottage cheese for breakfast, you could have already used up nearly half of your entire daily sodium target. And the day has barely started. No chips, no fast food, no bacon. Just a spoonful of what you believed was one of the cleanest choices on the menu. This is exactly the kind of gap between perception and reality that keeps blood pressure creeping upward in people who are genuinely trying their best. You didn't do anything reckless. You did what you were told was smart. And the food industry simply never told you the rest of the story. Here's the good news, and it's real good news, not a guilt trip. Low sodium or no salt added cottage cheese exists, and it typically contains around only 13 milligrams of sodium per serving. 13 compared to hundreds. Same protein, same creamy texture. Completely different impact on your body. The only difference is which container you pick up off the shelf, and whether you take 10 extra seconds to read the label before it goes in your cart. That 10 seconds might matter more for your long-term health than almost anything else you do that morning. Now let's talk about what actually happens inside your body when this becomes a daily pattern, not just a one-time breakfast. High blood pressure is often called the silent condition, and that name is not an exaggeration. It doesn't come with obvious symptoms most of the time. No sharp pain, no dramatic warning sign sending you to the doctor early. It simply builds quietly, day after day, meal after meal, while you go about your life feeling completely normal. Meanwhile, according to research on aging and kidney health, your kidneys are already working with reduced capacity compared to when you were younger. They're not filtering and clearing sodium the way they once did. So the extra sodium doesn't just pass through. It lingers. It pulls in extra water. That extra fluid volume pushes harder against your blood vessel walls, and your heart has to work harder to move blood through a system under more pressure than it should be. Over years, that strain contributes to real serious outcomes. Increased risk of heart disease, increased risk of stroke, additional burden placed on kidneys that are already working with less capacity than they used to have. None of this happens overnight. It happens through thousands of small, invisible mornings, just like the one we described at the start of this video. And here's the part that stings the most. Many people caught in this pattern are not making careless choices. They are actively trying. They're avoiding fried food. They're skipping the bacon. They're choosing cereal over pastries, cottage cheese over sugary yogurt, bread over nothing at all. They are doing everything they were taught to do. The problem was never effort. The problem was information. Nobody sat down and told you that healthy sounding and low sodium are two completely different labels, and that food companies are allowed to use the first one freely while quietly ignoring the second. That ends today, right here, with you knowing exactly what to look for. So let's get practical. What can you actually do tomorrow morning without turning your entire kitchen upside down? First, learn two simple numbers, because food labeling actually gives you a real tool here, not just a guess. A product labeled low sodium legally must contain 140 milligrams of sodium or less per serving. A product labeled very low sodium must contain 35 milligrams or less per serving. Those aren't marketing fluff. Those are regulated numbers you can trust and compare against. Second, flip the box over before it goes in your cart. Not the front, where the heart symbol and the word wholesome are printed in friendly letters. The back, where the nutrition facts panel lives. Look specifically at the sodium line, and look at what one actual serving size really is. Because manufacturers sometimes list serving sizes smaller than what a person would realistically eat in one sitting. Third, here are direct swaps based on everything we just walked through. Instead of instant oatmeal packets, cook plain old-fashioned oats with water and add your own cinnamon, fruit, or a small amount of honey for flavor. Instead of regular cottage cheese, look specifically for the words "no salt added" on the label, remembering the difference between 13 milligrams and over 700. Instead of a bagel or several slices of standard bread, consider a thinner slice option, or bread specifically labeled lower sodium. And remember that even English muffins tend to run lower than a full bagel. Fourth, if cereal is simply non-negotiable for you, and for a lot of people it genuinely is, compare boxes side by side before buying. And choose the one with the lowest sodium number per serving, not the one with the most compelling health claim printed across the front. And finally, if deli meat is part of your regular breakfast or lunch, consider swapping in a boiled egg, leftover roasted chicken, or canned tuna every few days. Same protein goal, a fraction of the sodium load. None of this requires giving up breakfast as you know it. It requires about 15 extra seconds of label reading a few times a week until the better choice simply becomes your new normal. Now, you might be thinking, if I cut back on sodium, won't everything just taste bland and boring? That worry is completely understandable, and it deserves a real answer, not just reassurance. Here's what actually happens. Your taste buds adjust faster than you'd expect, often within just a few weeks of consistently eating less sodium. Food doesn't stay bland forever. It simply resets your baseline, and foods that used to taste normal to you will eventually start tasting noticeably salty because your palate recalibrates. In the meantime, herbs and spices become your best tool, and they cost you nothing in terms of health risk. Cinnamon and nutmeg on oatmeal. Fresh black pepper and paprika on eggs. A squeeze of lemon or a bit of vinegar to brighten up a plate without a single milligram of sodium added. Garlic powder, onion powder, and dried herbs like basil or oregano can replace a huge amount of the flavor that salt used to provide without any of the downstream cost to your heart and kidneys. Let's paint the picture of what a genuinely lower sodium morning actually looks like, so this doesn't feel abstract. A bowl of plain oats, cooked with water, topped with fresh berries and a sprinkle of cinnamon. Or 2 eggs cooked simply, alongside a slice of avocado and a slice of tomato, maybe on a lower sodium English muffin. Or plain Greek yogurt with a small drizzle of honey and sliced banana on top. None of these require special ingredients from a specialty store. None of them are expensive or complicated. They simply avoid the specific traps we walked through today: the processed cereal, the standard cottage cheese, the packaged instant oatmeal, the deli meat. This is not about perfection. Nobody is asking you to become obsessive about a nutrition label for the rest of your life. It's about awareness. Knowing which 3 or 4 everyday breakfast items are quietly doing the most damage and making a different choice on most mornings, most weeks. That alone can meaningfully shift the trajectory of your blood pressure over months and years. One more important thing before we wrap up, because we don't want you walking away and swinging too far in the other direction. Sodium is not the enemy. Your body genuinely needs some of it to function. It helps regulate fluid balance, supports nerve signals, and allows your muscles, including your heart, to contract properly. The body typically needs somewhere around 500 milligrams a day just for basic function, and healthy kidneys are generally very good at holding on to what you actually need. This matters because going too low can also create problems, particularly in older adults. Low sodium levels in the blood, sometimes called low sodium syndrome by doctors, can cause confusion, fatigue, muscle cramping, and in some cases, an increased risk of falls. That is precisely why this video is not telling you to eliminate sodium from your life. It's telling you to stop consuming it blindly, without any awareness of where it's hiding. This is also exactly why we keep repeating this point throughout the video. Everyone's ideal number is different. Someone managing high blood pressure or kidney disease may need to aim lower than someone without those conditions. Someone on certain medications, particularly diuretics, may have entirely different needs around both sodium and fluid intake. Your doctor can look at your specific blood work, your specific medications, and your specific health history, and tell you exactly where your personal target should sit. We can hand you the general research and the real numbers. Only your doctor can hand you the plan that's actually built for your body. So please, take what you learned today, the numbers on the cereal box, the truth about cottage cheese, the reality hiding inside a bagel, and bring it into your next conversation with your doctor or your care team. Ask them directly whether your current sodium intake fits your personal health picture. That single conversation could matter more than anything else in this video. Let's bring this all the way back to where we started. You woke up this morning, reached for something that felt safe, felt responsible, felt like the choice a careful person makes. And that instinct was never wrong. Wanting to take care of yourself, wanting to protect your heart and your independence as you get older. That instinct is exactly right. What was missing wasn't effort. It was information that the food industry had very little incentive to hand you clearly. Now you know. You know that a bowl of cereal with a heart symbol on the box can carry over 200 milligrams of sodium. You know that cottage cheese, one of the most trusted breakfast staples for people over 65, can carry up to 746 milligrams in a single cup, unless you specifically choose the no-salt added version. You know that a single bagel can eat up a third of your entire daily target before lunch even exists. And you know that 77% of the sodium in the average diet was never coming from your salt shaker in the first place. If you ignore all of this and go back to old habits tomorrow morning without a second thought, nothing dramatic happens immediately. That's exactly the danger. The cost of this pattern is quiet, slow, and cumulative. And it shows up years down the road as a blood pressure number your doctor frowns at, or a new prescription you didn't expect to need. But if you take even one of the swaps we talked about today, no salt-added cottage cheese, plain oats instead of the instant packet, a lower sodium bread, a boiled egg instead of deli meat, you are actively changing that trajectory, one ordinary morning at a time. This content is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Please consult your doctor before making changes to your diet or routine, especially if you take medication or have a health condition. Everything shared today comes from real, publicly available research from organizations like the American Heart Association, the CDC, and the FDA, and it's meant to help you ask better questions, not replace the guidance only your own doctor can give you. If this video helped you see your own breakfast a little differently, that's exactly why this channel exists. Hit like if you learned something today. Drop a comment and tell us one thing from this video you're going to change tomorrow morning. Subscribe if you want more honest, research-backed breakdowns like this one every week. And if you know someone over 65 who eats cereal or cottage cheese every single morning without thinking twice about it, send them this video. It might be the most useful 3 minutes you share with them all year. Take care of yourself. We'll see you in the next one.